My name is James Whitman, and I work as a marketing assistant at a small advertising company in Chicago. Every morning, I ride the train downtown, feeling excited about my day. I love my job because it allows me to be creative, yet sometimes I feel stuck. Today, as I sit at my desk, the office buzzes with energy. People are chatting, brainstorming ideas, and planning campaigns. The walls are covered with colorful posters, reflecting our teamwork. But inside me, there is a worry. I've just learned about an important project that will decide who gets promoted. The pressure is on, and I can't help but feel anxious. As I settled into my chair, the bright glow of my computer screen felt both comforting and overwhelming. It was a typical busy day at Parkview Advertising, but today held something different. My manager, Ms. Harris, called an unexpected meeting. My stomach twisted in knots as I walked to the conference room, doubting if I was ready for whatever was coming next. When I entered, Ms. Harris was already there, flipping through some papers. The other team members were seated around the table, their eyes drifting to me as I took a seat. "Thank you for coming, everyone. We have an important client meeting coming up next week," she announced, her voice firm yet encouraging. "We need fresh ideas to pitch. James, I'd like you to lead this project." My heart sank. "Led?" I glanced around the room, catching the eyes of my coworkers who nodded in support, but I felt warmth fade into a rush of panic. I had only been with the company for a year and hadn't led any big projects before. What if I made a mistake? Ms. Harris continued to speak, but her voice turned into a faint hum as my mind raced. I had no experience leading a team, yet here I was, given the responsibility. "James, are you with us?" Ms. Harris's voice broke through my fog of worry. I blinked and realized everyone was waiting for my response. Yes, I understand," I replied, my voice shaky. "I will do my best." For the rest of the meeting, my mind was filled with thoughts of failure. After Ms. Harris left, Jamie, my coworker, approached me with a friendly smile. "You'll do great, James. Just catch up with the team and brainstorm. We are all here to help you," she said, her words brightening my mood slightly. Still, I struggled to breathe. That night, I stared at my empty notebook, feeling the weight of expectations pressing on my shoulders. I pondered my past struggles. What if I came up with terrible ideas? What if I let my team down? I opened my laptop, hoping to gather thoughts from the internet, but nothing came together. The next day, when I arrived at the office, I decided to ask Jamie for help. "Can we brainstorm together?" I asked, trying to hide my anxiety. She agreed willingly, and we spent hours bouncing ideas back and forth. Felt better to share the heavy load. Yet, as we jotted down suggestions, I could feel a cloud of doubt creeping back. Some of my ideas fell flat, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was failing. "Why can't I get it right?" I thought, frustration boiling inside me. As I poured my heart onto the page, my thoughts became tangled, and I feared that the upcoming presentation would be a disaster. Later that week, during a casual lunch with some coworkers, I opened up about my worries. "I just don't know if I'm cut out for this," I confessed. To my surprise, several of them shared similar stories of their own struggles. Hearing these tales gave me hope, reminding me that everyone faces challenges. Even the most confident team members had once felt lost. Leaving the lunchroom, I realized I wasn't alone in this journey. We all faced difficulties, but that didn't mean we couldn't succeed. I would face my fears and try my best because deep down, I knew that every challenge was also an opportunity to grow. The days leading up to the presentation clocked by steadily, and with each passing hour, my stress grew. Every time I sat down to plan, my mind was clouded with uncertainty. It was Wednesday, only 3 days before the meeting, and our team gathered for another brainstorming session. As we shuffled into the conference room, I could sense the weight of everyone's expectant gazes on me. "Let's hear your ideas first, James," Ms. Harris said, placing her hands on the table. My heart raced. I cleared my throat, gripping my notes tightly. I shared several concepts, but I stumbled over my words, and the ideas fell flat. Afterward, I could see the hesitation in Ms. Harris's eyes. "Maybe we need to think this through some more," she suggested gently. For a moment, I felt a flash of embarrassment. My stomach knotted, so I sat silently, feeling the growing tension in the room. As the meeting ended, a tightness settled in my chest like a heavy weight. Before I could gather my thoughts, Greg, a colleague known for being critical, approached me. "You need to put more effort into this project if you want to impress Ms. Harris," he said bluntly, returning to his desk. I felt my cheeks flush heat as his words pierced through me. Why was he always so harsh? I glanced at Jamie for support, but she merely shrugged, indicating she was uncertain, too. A wave of frustration welled inside me, mixed with self-doubt. The clock seemed to mock me as it ticked toward Friday. I had so much to do, and it felt impossible. There was still so little time. Each time I tried to focus on my work, my mind wandered back to Greg's comments. I could not shake the fear that I was letting the team down. My approach to leading this project felt aimless and ineffective. While at my desk the next day, I received an email that sent my heart racing. The client wanted to see the presentation one day earlier than expected. Panic bubbled within me. How would we prepare in time? As I stared at the screen, my eyes must have grown wide with disbelief. I typed my response quickly, asking for more time, but deep down, I knew that was futile. "Hey, James," Jamie said, snapping me out of my trance. She had been watching my anxious expressions. "You look stressed. What's going on?" "The client wants our presentation tomorrow," I replied, curbing a shaky breath. "I'm not sure we're ready, and if I fail right now—" My voice trailed off, consumed by dread. "You are not going to fail," she assured me, her tone steady. "What about preparing a simple outline tonight? We can edit and practice first thing in the morning." I felt a spark of hope in her words. "You're right. If we work together, we can at least have a structure to start with." That night, we stayed late, crafting what felt like a better plan than before. Reassurance filled me as Jamie shared her insights, making the pressure feel a little lighter. Yet, somewhere inside, there was a persistent voice reminding me that I needed to step up. I realized that waiting for others to lead was not a solution. As I navigated my thoughts, I felt a growing determination replace the panic. I was part of this team, and it was time for me to take responsibility. I gathered my courage, committing to lead this project, not just for myself but for everyone counting on me. I needed to step out of my comfort zone, leverage the support around me, and transform my fear into energy for success. Time was running out, but I was ready to rise to the challenge. The morning of the presentation finally arrived, and a wave of anxiety washed over me as I stood in front of the mirror, fixing my tie for the umpteenth time. I glanced at the clock. Only 30 minutes left. My heart raced as I replayed scenes from the night before. The rejected ideas, the harsh words from Greg, filled my thoughts like heavy anchors pulling me down. I couldn't shake the fear that this moment would determine my fate at Parkview Advertising. As I arrived at the conference room, I noticed the other team members settling in their seats, their faces a mix of anticipation and concern. Ms. Harris was already there, reviewing our slides. My stomach churned when I saw the client walk in, their expressions unreadable. Everything seemed to shift into slow motion as I took a deep breath, my palms sweaty. "Welcome, everyone. Today, we are excited to present our ideas," Ms. Harris began, her voice confident but calm. I could feel my heart pounding louder than her words. I was still trying to find my footing when she turned to me. "James, why don't you start us off?" Everything inside me froze. The intensity of being in the spotlight made me feel small and vulnerable. As I stood and approached the projector, my stomach flipped again, but I knew this was my moment to shine. I gripped the edge of the table and took a deep breath. "Thank you," I managed to say, with my voice shaking slightly. Nervous, I switched the slide, and my plan to break the ice began to crumble. I could see the clients leaning in, their eyes focused, waiting. "Today, we will share our fresh strategies to elevate your marketing," I continued, but my voice felt distant. The words I had practiced echoed in my head, but they felt foreign in this moment. As I spoke, uncertainty clawed at me. I stumbled over a few points and noticed faces in the room grow fidgety. In an instant, all the doubts I had fought back surged through me. The pressure felt like an invisible weight. I could hardly breathe. I saw Greg's gaze, sharp as a blade, and I suddenly blinked, willing myself to push through. That's when I heard a whisper, a tiny reminder of our long nights of hard work. I thought of Jamie and how we partnered through late hours, how we encouraged one another. I looked out at the clients, forcing a smile. But let me share our vision on how we can achieve this together, I said, injecting a bit of passion into my voice. I quickly turned the focus back onto the ideas we had crafted together. The panic inside started to fade, and something remarkable happened. As I discussed our strategies and shared the benefits, I saw interest spark in the clients' faces. I remembered to breathe. I focused on every enthusiastic word and moment of inspiration to refuel my energy. With each slide, I felt the tension lifting. The fear began to transform into an engaging conversation. It was as if a bridge formed between us and them. When I looked around the room, I saw nods of approval and supportive smiles from my teammates. Fueled by their encouragement, I realized that this moment was more than a presentation. It was also about connecting and sharing something meaningful. As the presentation drew to a close, a near stillness enveloped the room. I took a deep breath, feeling a newfound confidence. "We appreciate your time," I concluded, my voice steadier than before. A wave of relief washed over me as applause filled the air. In that defining moment, I stepped beyond my fear. I had pushed through, learned to lead, and found strength in vulnerability. It was then I understood that I could rise above challenges, and even more, I wanted to. As the applause echoed in the conference room, I felt a rush of warmth flood my cheeks. The clients exchanged glances, their expressions shifting from curiosity to genuine interest. A sense of relief washed over me, mingled with the delight that came from overcoming my fears. I had pushed through, transformed my doubt into determination, and it seemed to resonate with those in the room. Ms. Harris was the first to respond. Her face brightened as she turned to me. "Great job, James. You really captured the essence of our proposal. I'm proud of you," she said, her eyes sparkling with sincerity. My heart swelled with pride as I recognized her approval. This was the moment I had longed for. Not just acceptance, but respect from my manager. The clients leaned forward, clearly invested in what we had proposed. One of them, a woman named Sarah, began asking questions about our strategies, showing a level of engagement that set my nerves at ease. I felt more comfortable answering her questions, and the conversation flowed naturally. With each inquiry, I realized that those early concerns and fears had started to vanish. Everything we had worked on had brought us to this moment, and I was taking ownership. As the meeting progressed, I noticed how supportive my teammates were being. Jamie, positioned slightly back in her chair, grinned at me. Her smile was wide, a silent gesture of encouragement. Even Greg, who had been so critical before, offered a nod of respect. I could see that he had recognized my growth, and that acknowledgement spoke volumes. I had earned respect where I once felt doubt. Driving the discussion forward, I felt a spark of brilliance ignite within me. I suggested additional ideas on working closely with the client post-launch, inspired by their earlier comments about needing collaboration. The clients tapped their pens on the table, excitement flickering in their eyes, and it was there that I felt confidence bloom. Galvanized by their reactions, I took each moment as a chance to solidify my role in this project. When the meeting finally came to a close, I went into it feeling small and unsure, but I stood up straight with my head held high, ready to face anything. As we exited the room, Ms. Harris clapped me on the shoulder. "I can see your growth in this presentation. You showed real leadership today, James." Those words washed over me like a wave of confidence. I had pushed through my fear, embraced the challenge, and emerged stronger. As everyone began to disperse, I took a moment to reflect on what had happened. I learned something vital that day. It isn't a lack of fear that defines success, but the courage to face it. My own self-doubt had been a barrier, one I had now realized I could overcome. Each time I stifled my voice or hesitated, I recognized how those moments fostered growth instead of defeat. After the meeting, I walked back to my desk feeling as if a great weight had lifted. I believed in myself for the first time during this project. While I still felt the usual nervousness that came with speaking in front of others, a simmering sense of determination began to surface. If I could overcome this pressure today, I could navigate challenges in the future as well. Now, I understood that challenges were not just obstacles but stepping stones to growth. With my newfound confidence, I looked forward to what was next. I realized I was no longer just a supporting character in my job. I was starting to step into my own narrative, ready to chart my course in my career journey, one where facing challenges head-on would become part of my story. As the day wound down and the sun began to set outside the office, I found myself sitting at my desk, replaying the events of the presentation in my mind. The adrenaline that had surged through me earlier started to fade, replaced by a calm realization of what I had accomplished. I leaned back in my chair, a smile creeping onto my face. I had done it. Later that afternoon, as I packed my things to go home, Jamie approached me with enthusiasm in her step. "Hey James, you were amazing in the meeting today," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. I couldn't help but chuckle, still feeling the thrill of success. "Thanks, Jamie. I wouldn't have made it without your support." "I really appreciate it," I replied. "Honestly, you took the lead. You handled the questions so well, and I saw you engaging with the clients." "That's a big step for you," she acknowledged, her voice filled with admiration. "How do you feel about it now?" I paused for a moment, reconsidering the journey I'd just taken. "I feel different. I realized that it's okay to be scared. Everyone feels fear, but what matters is how we respond to it." I responded, excitement lacing my words. Before today, I was too focused on the fear of failing that I lost sight of my abilities. I felt more confidence when I embraced the moment rather than shying away from it. Jamie nodded, a thoughtful expression on her face. "That's an important lesson. Sometimes we let our fears control us. I have feared speaking up in meetings, too. Maybe we could help each other strengthen our voice." I liked the idea of working together toward confidence. "I think that would help both of us. We can create a team bond." The realization that overcoming challenges was possible began to settle deeply within me. Fear could be turned into motivation and, more importantly, it had led to growth. That evening, I decided to call my mentor, Mr. Collins, who had once encouraged me to pursue my path in marketing. After a few rings, his familiar voice echoed on the line. "James, how are you?" he asked with genuine interest. "I did something different today," I began, feeling the warmth of his encouragement and wisdom bathing over me. I led an important presentation for the first time. It was intimidating, but I pushed through. "Wonderful news, James," he said with palpable excitement. "What did you learn from this experience?" I took a deep breath before answering. "I learned that courage doesn't mean being unafraid. It's about facing those fears and stepping up anyway. I had the support of my team, and I realized that our failures and successes are all part of growth." Mr. Collins chuckled warmly. "That's right. Growth comes from stepping outside our comfort zones and taking on challenges. Each step builds your skills and confidence. Don't forget that the ability to learn from these experiences is just as important as the successes." After I hung up, I sat quietly, letting his words sink in. I had faced my self-doubt head-on and, with the help of my colleagues and mentor, discovered newfound confidence that would guide me through future obstacles. As the door to my office shut behind me, I felt a purpose I had not felt before. I had learned that the path to success wasn't straightforward. It fluctuated with challenges and discomfort, but that discomfort was a sign of growth, a chance to learn, improve, and ultimately emerge stronger. Eagerly, I looked ahead to facing the next challenge, whatever it may be. After the presentation, something inside me shifted. I found myself approaching the next week with a sense of excitement instead of doubt. As I stepped into the office each morning, I could feel a new energy coursing through me. I was no longer just James, the marketing assistant afraid to add his voice. I was James, ready to contribute ideas and accept challenges. The day after the presentation, I decided to put my new mindset into action. During our morning team meeting, when Ms. Harris asked for additional input on the upcoming campaign, I raised my hand without hesitation. "I think we could enhance our social media strategy," I suggested, surprising even myself with my boldness. Everyone looked at me and I felt a knot of nervousness at first, but I remembered the gratitude from the clients just days earlier. "Go ahead, James," Ms. Harris encouraged. I took a deep breath and shared my thoughts on how we could incorporate influencer collaborations to reach a broader audience. As I spoke, I noticed my voice gaining strength. My colleagues really started to listen. By the end of my presentation, I could see Jamie nodding in agreement, and even Greg looked impressed. I felt a rush of confidence. I was able to engage, share, and be heard. Each day, I sought small moments to push myself further. I joined Jamie in organizing brainstorming sessions, where I encouraged quieter team members to share ideas. Something wonderful happened. I realized that in helping them voice their thoughts, I was outgrowing my fear of the spotlight. I saw how we united as a team, supporting one another in growing our strengths. The office atmosphere shifted, and team discussions felt vibrant, as everyone contributed ideas, free from doubt. As the weeks passed, I began to see the fruits of our collaboration. The campaign ideas were coming together nicely, but what impressed me the most was the evolution of my own perspective. I was no longer simply focused on avoiding mistakes. I embraced creativity and sought growth at every step. It felt invigorating, a breath of fresh air each day to approach my work as a collaborative effort. I also made it a point to connect with Mr. Collins periodically. During my calls with him, I shared the changes I was experiencing. "I feel ready to take ownership of my projects," I told him passionately one afternoon. "Instead of fearing judgment, I'm using it as motivation to create something meaningful." Mr. Collins often encouraged me, reminding me that every challenge is a learning opportunity. And now, more than ever, I believed it to be true. There was a moment a few weeks later when we faced a setback. We received feedback from a client that one of the campaign ideas needed significant work. Old doubts started to creep in as I feared failure. But instead of succumbing to that anxiety, I rallied my team. "Let's look at what we can tweak," I urged. "This is just a step in the process." I organized a meeting to gather everyone's insights and strategies on how we could improve. During the meeting, I felt more in control, ready to lead our way through this obstacle. Each suggestion, from content edits to presentation style, was valued. I noticed how positively my teammates responded. We were collectively crafting solutions instead of falling into shadows of defeat. Leaving that meeting, I felt a profound change within me. I shifted from seeing myself as just an employee working to avoid mistakes to someone who ingrained his values into the team spirit. I realized with clarity that embracing vulnerability brought strength, and through collaboration, I had genuinely become a part of something more significant than myself. Anxiety had transformed into enthusiasm, and I entered each day with anticipation. I was not merely waiting for the next challenge. I was ready to seize it. As the months rolled on, my journey at Parkview Advertising entered a new chapter filled with confidence and purpose. No longer did I enter the office feeling like I was walking on eggshells. Instead, I embraced each day with optimism and energy, ready to tackle whatever challenges lay ahead. I had grown to understand that facing my fears wasn't just about overcoming obstacles. It was about learning and evolving. Our most recent campaign launch had gained remarkable traction, thanks to the collective effort of my team. The feedback from clients was overwhelmingly positive, but what excited me most was how we collaborated to achieve it. I felt honored to be part of a unit where everyone shared their ideas openly. I had transformed from an anxious team member to a confident contributor, still learning but also leading in small ways. One afternoon, as we gathered around the table dissecting analytics from our latest campaign, I realized how far I had come. Feedback was flowing, and lively conversations sparked new ideas. I spoke up often, sharing what I discovered about our audience's engagement and suggesting ways to enhance our outreach. It felt like second nature now. My words flowed effortlessly, grounded in the knowledge I had gained from past experiences. Ms. Harris took notice of my evolving role. "James, you've really stepped up over the past few months. Your insights have helped guide our team. I can see your growth in both your ideas and in supporting others," she said one day after a brainstorming session. Her acknowledgement filled me with a sense of pride. I realized that I had indeed taken ownership of my work and the responsibility of helping others elevate as well. Celebrating our campaign's success at lunch soon became routine. Each week, we gathered to reflect on achievements and support one another. Jamie had become my close ally, and we often laughed about our initial worries. Look at us now. Can you believe we were nervous about voicing our ideas? I said one day as we shared pizza in the break room. I know. It's wild. This has turned into such a creative space, she replied, her eyes shining with excitement. Conversations with my team no longer felt intimidating. They were inspiring, a blend of encouragement and innovation that kept our spirits high. Even Greg had a different look in his eye. Recently, during a team meeting, I overheard him complimenting one of my proposals. The old tension between us faded into a semblance of camaraderie. Learning to appreciate different perspectives was essential, and it felt rewarding when we came together for the sake of achievement. I also made strides to reflect on my growth and continue expanding my skills. Instead of shying away from development opportunities, I volunteered to mentor newer team members. This encouraged them to find their own voices, feeding their confidence, much like I had received support when I was unsure. It felt fulfilling to help others face their fears and discover their strengths. Looking out over the bustling office from my desk, I felt ready for any challenge that the future might hold. I understood now that progress wasn't about striving for perfection but focusing on growth. Embracing vulnerability had brought me so far, and I knew there would always be more for me to learn. Each obstacle was just another opportunity to grow, and failure was no longer something to fear but a chance to adapt and improve. With a content smile, I returned my focus to the task at hand, prepared to lead the next project while listening to the input from my teammates. With courage and determination, I stood confident knowing I was not only capable of embracing every challenge but eager to do so, ready to pave the way for both myself and others as we navigated the road ahead together.